One, two, three, four. Yeah, when you're feeling down and motivated in the midweek, we got the guys here to make your life complete. Little John, Brandon, Cody, Carly, they're coming in to keep you motivated all week. New episode, same time every week. Don't gotta wait long for the next one to release. So don't go away, sit down, take a seat, enjoy Midweek Motivation with John and Carly. Hey.
Midweek Motivation.
Let's go!
There we go. Let's go.
I almost burped on Mike.
I almost coughed. I was like, I had like almost no voice right before that happened.
Right.
Then I was like, wait a minute. He just said, let's go. We're supposed to be on right now.
Yeah, like right before you went live, I swallowed a burp.
That's fantastic. Well, hey, welcome to Midweek Motivation.
Right.
It hasn't been just us in a little while.
No.
I'm not sure that's a good thing.
It's scary.
Fairly confident it's not a good thing, but
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. But hey, thanks so much for joining us. Welcome to another week of Midweek Motivation. If you're not already part of our group, we'd love to invite you to do that. You can text the word motivate to 900 or 540 900.
I was waiting on it.
3838. It numbers right there on the screen.
900.
If you just need some motivation, just need some encouragement, that's what we're here for. We got a couple people that man that person that. It's 2024.
Yeah.
We person that. Is that the right word? I don't know if that's the right word. We're going to get censored on Facebook, I'm sure. Maybe we'll get lucky. But make sure you text that number.
That, like,
Yeah, you got to person it.
that is
right?
great.
It's 2024, right?
We person that.
We person that. Can we get that on a T-shirt?
We're gonna person you.
We're gonna. Yeah, I don't know how we're gonna use that.
We person Facebook.
We person
We
Facebook.
person YouTube, and we person everything else.
We person it all.
Yeah.
Staff it. That's the word I'm looking for.
Staff it sounds much
Staff
better.
it. That's what I want to say.
Yeah.
We staff it. So we staff that number with several humans. It's not a robot that answers you back. It's an actual person if you text that. So
Yeah.
can you call that number too? Does it work if you call it?
Yes. Yes.
We don't know who's going to answer, but
I think it actually rings your
Does it
phone
ring
now.
my phone?
I think so.
All right.
And it'll pop up as the Midweek Motivation number. But I definitely encourage you to text it for sure. What's up, Susan? What's up, John? John's one that will often text it and encourage us.
Yeah.
And so we're open to that. Like, man, you guys encourage us. We encourage y'all. It's a two-way deal, and that's why we put that number out there.
Yeah.
We don't get anything. It's not like we get dollars and cents if you text that number. It's nothing like that. It's just
Man, we should totally monetize that.
yeah. It's
I'll have
just
to work on that.
It's just for us to love on you guys and connect with you guys. Hey, let us know in the chat that you're here though, especially if you're on the app or on YouTube, because it doesn't tell us. And Facebook on occasion will tell us.
Occasionally.
Andrew Shelton Reed, the whole government name. Good to have you, bud. Benny and Michelle back to back watching the show.
Yeah, I'm still very disappointed that I didn't get them back to back on the stage when they were on the show.
Yeah.
I that was a missed opportunity, and I apologize. One of these days. We still have that picture. We need to show that picture sometime.
Yeah, man. And you've figured out some cool things and made some things happen. And so, yeah. Hey, we got some cool things coming up. One of them is my favorite thing, which you missed last year.
I did miss that last year.
Don't miss it this year.
My kids were begging me to come, and I couldn't make it happen.
Yeah. Meat on the Mountain. Meat on the Mountain. Man, I can taste the meat right now. Parkway, we have the meat. That was a good little commercial.
Oh, so that was your voice in the commercial.
No, it was not. That was Lincoln's.
wasn't you?
No. It cracked me up the way, like, because it wasn't Parkway. It was like, Parkway, we have the meat. He did a good job. Christina Smith, good to have you with us. Hey, if you are a man, sorry, women, but if you are a man, you are welcome to come to Meet on the Mountain. Mm-hmm. I don't remember the times.
5 to 8.
5 to 8. Sheriff Hash, who was on our show, and we're gonna have him on the show again. Mm-hmm. He was on our show several months back. We went to the sheriff's office, and it was such a good show. My man preached, had us in tears. A few people might have got saved. I don't know. I might have got saved.
And he's spoken here at Parkway on a Sunday, didn't he?
Yeah, he did a prayer.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Yeah, so Meet on the Mountain. You can go to parkwayroanoke.com/Meet on the Mountain, parkwayroanoke.com/event. Meet on the Mountain. There's a couple ways. You can go to parkwayroanoke.com, scroll to the bottom, click on the image there. Tickets are $20 for one, or you can save a little bit of money and get 2 tickets for $35. There's going to be a cornhole tournament, some live bluegrass music. I'm not huge on bluegrass, but I'll tell you, man, last year it was super cool to have them kind of playing in the background. Again, Sheriff Hash will be speaking. There's a ton of giveaways. My man John Brunk has made some limited edition hats that I don't know if I was supposed to say that or not, but it's out there now.
I haven't seen these yet.
Yeah, they're pretty sweet. Some limited edition hats that I think will be available there.
Shout out to Goose Creek Customs on Facebook. Check them out.
I was trying to remember the name of it. Goose Creek Customs. John Brunk, put that link in the chat if you can, man, and we'll share some love. This episode is brought to you by Goose Creek Customs. We get nothing for that sponsorship, but yeah.
Yeah, well, you're wearing one of the Goose Creek hats.
I am one of the
first.
Yeah, one of the originals. So thank you, John Brunk. We have a Sean Witt special. I don't know if he's going to be recreating them, but there's a Sean Witt hat out now that says the classic "Let's Go" on it. So yeah,
Let's go.
I'm always so delayed. I always hit it too late.
Yeah. I need to trim off the beginning of that so that it triggers right when you hit it. So yeah, Meet on the Mountain. Man, get the word out. Last year we planned for 40 and had like 120. Right now registration is down a little bit, so if you could help us out in doing that, that would be great. I'm gonna put in the chat, at least in Facebook.
Let's be honest, we're men. We're procrastinators.
Oh, no doubt.
Right. So you can buy tickets at the door, correct?
Yep, you can
show
register
up
at the door.
right.
Yeah, make sure, this helps us a ton, when you register, if you plan on even slightly possibly playing in the cornhole tournament, which you should, it is a blast, make sure you check that box because that helps us and makes the line move a little quicker. But yeah, you can walk up and register. The deal for 2 tickets is out at that point. Is $20 per ticket, so you don't save any money there. But bring somebody, invite your neighborhood. It's such a cool event. We all pull our trucks up and drop the tailgates, and it's just a good time.
See, I did not know about the truck. I'm excited about that now.
Yeah. There's pictures.
I'll have to clean my truck so it doesn't look so terrible next to everybody else.
Yeah, everybody backs it up on the grassy knoll up here in the middle section and drop the tailgates, and it's a super cool deal. Hey guys, do us a huge favor while we're rambling right now. Go ahead and hit that share button. Share this with some people. Darren's got a really cool conversation he's going to kind of hit. We're going to kind of piggyback off of what we did last week and talk about some things. Listen, though, men, your day is Saturday, all right? The women's day is Sunday.
You can't forget that. As important as Saturday is, right? Definitely come to Meet on the Mountain. And we'll remind you again on Saturday.
Yes.
I'll commit to that. We will remind you again on Saturday.
Yeah.
But Sunday, work on something. Did you get something figured out for Hannah?
I have not yet.
I haven't either.
Yeah.
Courtney,
Hannah's a tough one. I hope I can say that on air. She's a tough one because she's not your typical girl that just wants like chocolates and roses, and that's not her.
I tell everybody all the time, my wife is great and terrible when it comes to gifts.
Yeah.
She's great because she wants nothing and needs nothing.
Yeah.
Which is a great personality trait and a great characteristic, but it makes it terrible to try to buy her anything.
Yeah.
It would be easier if she was like really materialistic.
You know what? Let's do something here, all right? In the chat right now, what would be your, if you're a mom, what would be your ideal gift on Mother's Day? And maybe give us some ideas in the chat.
Yeah, help us out a little bit.
What should we get? Like, not just us, but just all the men in general.
All the men in our lives. So I'm going to tell you right now.
What should we get for Mother's Day?
While they're doing
for Mother's Day.
While they're doing that, right? One, I'm going to give you the simplest thing in the world. Gentlemen, flowers always work. Right.
Not for Hannah, though.
Yeah, not for Hannah. If you're allergic to flowers, it doesn't necessarily work.
So at the piano recital, they were like, "Hey, Hannah, we are so sorry. We failed to get you flowers, and I wanted to yell from the booth, they'll die anyways.
That's about how flowers get treated in my life or in our house. And now my mom loves flowers, right? So
I mean, they're pretty. They just don't last.
my mom watches Midweek. So spoiler alert, Mom, you're probably going to get some flowers.
My mom got Cracker Barrel.
That's pretty solid.
Yeah.
So we'll do a dinner for Mother's Day every year. My dad and I and the boys will make dinner. We usually grill something. I don't know what we're gonna do this Sunday. We're gonna figure something out.
Yeah. Well, we have no life group, so you got time.
Yeah, that'll make life a little bit easier. So we'll be doing that. The other thing, pro tip, I have developed a poor habit for many years of buying cards and then forgetting that I bought cards and forgetting to give her a card.
So you have a ton of Mother's Day cards stashed at the house. Dude, you should sell them.
Right, that's a great idea. Meet on the mountain. If you need a card, gentlemen, I will
Darren will
have
be walking
one.
around. He's going to flip open his jacket, his Mother's Day cards, birthday card.
I legit, Courtney told me she found like 6 or 7 old Mother's Day cards that I have already written in and never given her, right? So they're already filled out, or a couple are already filled out. I will have some blank ones for sale.
Yeah, but he will have some pre-filled out as well.
Oh, for sure. When I'll have Courtney write them because my handwriting is atrocious. But I have a tendency to forget to give her these cards, so I have a whole bunch of cards already. So, gentlemen, just stock up on the cards and always have one ready. And the more generic, the better, right? So there's pro tip.
Anna says she's going to pretend like she's not watching right now, but nobody's putting anything in the chat. Come on, guys, help us out. Put in the chat. Let us know some things, because I got to buy Hannah something for Mother's Day.
And gentlemen, your wife is somebody you have to get something for Mother's Day. She may not be your
no
mother. She is the
escaping.
mother of your children, right?
Yeah.
She is a mother, and you are responsible. I'll just put that out there.
And listen, let me say this: even if you ain't got kids, you act like a kid. So I'm just putting that out there. She takes care of you when you men have your temper tantrums and stuff. So still get her something.
Do men have temper tantrums?
That's not what they're actually called, but that's what they are.
in South
Maybe it's just called a temper.
Well, in South Carolina, they call it a fit.
Yeah, throwing a fit.
Y'all just had a fit.
You
Don't be
just
throwing no
don't
fit.
be throwing no fits.
You know, it's funny. So I got to go back to North Carolina this weekend, see some old friends of ours. I got to see one of our former students get married. I got to see a bunch of our old students. Like one of them, this one threw me, okay? So I have a student now.
We're 12 minutes in and have done nothing.
Oh, we've done a whole lot. It's going to be good. We have a student, right, that was in our very first youth group when we were 22, right?
Wow.
Many, many moons ago. Guess how old he is now?
How old?
He is 30.
What?
30.
Holy smokes.
Right? 30. There's a student who I was responsible for in youth group who's 30. And here's the coolest moment, right? So we're at this wedding, and this is a kid when he was in high school. I got to teach him how to play guitar and how to lead worship. Real shy kid.
Yeah.
And for the past several years, he's been leading worship at that church now. Leads the youth group.
That's great.
Coolest thing, especially getting to see him sing and play at this wedding. The wedding is this youngest daughter. She's got 2 older brothers, and unfortunately, their dad passed away a couple of years ago, and it was a horrible accident. And the coolest moment was seeing her 2 older brothers walk her down the aisle.
Oh man, I bet that was special.
That was good. I looked
You know,
over Courtney.
we talked about moments last week. Like
Yeah.
that's a moment right there, man.
Exactly.
We'll get into that. All right, so Susan Miller gave us a little bit of advice.
Ooh, thank you, Susan. What do we got?
Dinner to my favorite restaurant, Applebee's, and flowers is what my husband gets me. I love it so simple. But for Hannah, I bet she would love a dinner either cooked for her or to take her somewhere special with a card from the kids. Mexican.
Yeah.
Always Mexican.
Mexican is a love language all in itself for some folks.
Bryce says dinner away from kids. Amen. That's a blessing to me too. And then just hang out at the house and have a movie night. I love it.
That's pretty solid.
John Brunt got my wife. Ooh, I better not say this out loud in case she's watching. John, you just told everybody and her what you got her. Got my wife T-shirts and a laser shadow box. I think I saw that. It looked super cool. If it's what I'm thinking about, it looks super cool. So, hey, one more thing. You can keep putting those ideas in the chat. One more thing that we have coming up is baptisms on the 26th, right?
That's right.
I keep wanting to say the 22nd, but that's the baptism class.
Right.
On the 26th, come. Carly needs an allergy pill, and Dayquil will help too. Yeah, so on the 26th, baptism, if you've never been a part of it here, it truly is a celebration. And if you want to be baptized, come be a part of that. You can go to parkwayroanoke.com/baptism to sign up.
And the water is
today.
nice and warm too.
It feels really good.
Let's just be clear. It's like hot tub warm.
It ain't no cold baptism.
Right?
We get in the hot water.
What? The hot what?
Hot water.
Hot water.
Hot water.
Well, anyways, like Carly said, we're gonna kind of piggyback a little bit off of what we were talking about last week, because Brandon got us too distracted talking about meat on the mountain. We didn't get through everything, but it's a cool conversation. I really appreciate where we went last week, and we talked about moments of impact and how all throughout our lives there are moments of impact that bring us closer to Christ, or that move people closer to Christ, or unfortunately in some cases could bring us farther away from Christ, and that's where that Dayquil comes in.
Normally I move, man. Sorry, you guys.
It's okay. We're professionals.
Are we?
I mean, technically, yeah. That's scary.
I feel like a professional cougher lately.
Right? Well, that's what,
Sorry, carry on.
I don't know why we keep getting derailed. Jeez.
Where is Megan? Megan, come
we
here.
definitely do better when Megan's here.
Yes.
We talked about these moments of impact, and I shared one of those here just a few minutes ago, being at that wedding, and I'll tell you what, it's cool to look back and see, because this is like 13 years ago that I lived there and was a part of these kids' lives. These kids now have families of their own.
Yeah.
One, they just found out one family I talked to, they're about to have another one here soon. It's just cool to see. So he said he has dedicated like third generation kids now.
Wow.
Like, that blew my mind.
That's crazy, but that's got to also feel really good as a shepherd, as a pastor. Whether he was the one that kind of gave them that moment, or they came along later on in life, but to be able to see, we often see talks and hear about generational curses, but then to be able to see the generational blessings, dude, that's huge as a pastor. To see it year over year, and and also to have the consistency of a pastor. We have pastor turnover so much in not just in the Wesleyan church, but in all churches. You don't normally see, for various reasons, you don't normally see pastors spend an extended period of time in places, whether it be just moving on up, or failure of some sort, or walking away from the ministry. So, man, that speaks on so many levels and so many different moments. And I'll speak on behalf of being a senior pastor before. Is those moments that keep us going.
Oh yeah.
That's what, we have things that keep us up at night, but that's the things that re-energize us. So I just want to say, I want to encourage you guys, whether you're watching from Parkway or not, or Pastor John hasn't been your pastor for very long, if there is a pastor or a spiritual influence in your life who's kind of given you those moments, those moments that make such a difference and such an impact, tell them. Let them know. Even if it was years ago. I talked with the pastor he was my pastor when I was in middle school, when I got saved. I was at he's kind of struggling with memory and all, and I talked to him at one of the conferences I saw him at probably about 3 years ago, and he said, "I'll never forget 12-year-old Carly raising his hands, during a Quentin Mills revival service and coming down, and I got to pray with you, and you accepted Christ. I will never forget that.
That's awesome.
And he will never forget that moment.
Yeah.
But I told him, I was like, I will never forget that moment, because that was the moment when it shifted.
Yeah.
And you got to remind people of that. And hopefully people will reciprocate that and remind you of the moments as well.
And think about, too, what brought him to that moment, right? So at some point in his life, he accepted a call into ministry.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yep.
chose, I'm going to give my life and to lead other people to Jesus.
Yep.
And you're talking, and made me think of my grandma. So my grandma was, at least on my mom's side, is first generation follower of Jesus. So she grew up. I mean, her dad was an outlaw, right? Is the best way to say it. Like
Yeah.
I want to say she's the youngest of 7 kids. I could have that wrong. Grandma, I'm sorry. I can't remember in this moment.
Does your grandma watch the show?
I think she has. She's on
Sweet,
Facebook
man.
every once in a while.
I love it.
I think she has seen it, but
Nice.
we'll make sure we send this into her. If it turns out good, if it's not, we won't send it to her. But what's cool is, so she had I want to say it was a neighbor that lived kind of down the street that ended up inviting them to church when she
Yeah.
was growing up, and that set off a chain reaction. She met Jesus, her mom met Jesus, and they were in church, every week following that, right?
Yeah.
That set off that chain reaction. That's how she raised my mom, right? And that's how my dad was raised.
Yeah.
And then my parents met, and were able to raise us that way,
Yeah.
right? And then now we're down into a third generation, down into my kids. My kids been in church every Sunday since they
Yeah.
were born, and that doesn't happen if my grandmother doesn't have that impact of getting invited to church.
Yeah.
Right. And I won't
Yeah.
say what year that was, but years and years ago. And that was the same church that I ended up growing in, that my mom
Yeah.
grew up in. And all of that comes from, one, not only that church having an impact in that neighborhood, right? But
Yeah.
now my kids are growing up
Absolutely,
as followers
man.
of Christ.
It's a beautiful thing. I want to share. This is going to be really hard for me to share, because I don't want to say the individual's name, because I do not have permission to share this, but I'm going to share it. And I think the individual will be okay. So I'm not going to share the name. But there's a guy who's been coming to our church, and he's involved in some of our groups here. He checked into a rehab a month or so ago. Well, before that, he had met John Ward. We've had John Ward on the show.
Mm-hmm.
John Ward has talked about his praying grandma, and the people who has had an influence in his life. And this individual I'm talking about met John Ward on March the 16th. John 3:16. And that is his clean day. That's when he decided, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
He got saved here on Palm Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. Checked into rehab, went through that, is now involved in our groups. And his wife was in an accident Monday, I think it was. And when he was on the way to the hospital, there was a guy on the side of the road that had overdosed.
Oh.
He pulls over. I think he had Narcan with him. He revives the guy, and he waits for EMS to get there, and the guy's okay.
Man.
All of that because of a moment with
Mm-hmm.
John Ward on 3:16.
Yeah.
But the thing with that is, John Ward had his moment several years before.
Mm-hmm.
And the person that helped John Ward have his moment had his moment several years and months before. These moments, it's not always generational in terms of family.
Yeah.
It's generation. There's so many different layers to these moments.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about something else that I shared Sunday with our team. Kelly Fitzgerald, who is she's our production director on Sunday.
She's the boss.
She is all of our boss on Sunday, and she is a great boss.
Yeah.
She does such a good job of keeping our own line and all of our tech stuff just flowing. She tells us what's up next, what we're doing wrong, what we're doing right, celebrates with us, but also she gives us criticism, constructive criticism. Well, she was telling me last week about the first week that Dustin preached in our sermon series, and how that was one of the most powerful messages she had ever heard. Well, her daughter, who is in college, who also serves on our team when she's here, she's in college in Georgia, home now, thank God. We've missed her. She watches the sermon and says, "Man, this was such a good sermon." So you have Kelly, who had a moment in a message. You have her daughter, who had a moment in a message. Then her daughter shares that with her friend. Her friend, I think I'm getting this right. Her friend then shares that with her mom.
Yeah.
And her friend's mom then shares it with her friends. And we know that one moment in a message that impacted Kelly was passed down 4 levels, if not more.
Yeah.
You never know the impact of a single moment. It is so amazing. Susan Miller just put, golly, I love this. Carly, you were my first interaction when I first started church online. Then your sermon was the first I saw in person and loved it. Then I was so glad you were the one to baptize me. I have fallen in love with our church after all of that. Yeah. So, that moment of me just connecting online, like it's so special. I hope that we didn't just lose the feed on Facebook, because mine said it ended.
Yeah, that's right. Facebook lies.
All right, yeah.
We're
Facebook, you liar. We're still there.
Yeah. It's cool. Yeah. You were talking about the, Kelly and her daughter Sharon and all that. And the cool thing is that's not that weird of a thing to do. That's just a normal thing, right? So think about, what did that cost them to share that?
Yeah.
Right? So think about all the things that you've seen on Facebook or Instagram, TikTok, whatever, like things that you wouldn't think twice about sharing. Like you share there's some dumb stuff on the internet.
You got that right.
We share some dumb stuff that has almost zero impact. Some of it's hilarious and, changes your life forever. Like there are commercials forever etched in my mind. Mostly Budweiser commercials, unfortunately. Listen, but there's some classics.
Right. I might regret saying this
Probably.
Live on air. But if you have not seen the Cheetos commercial from 2 years ago, Super Bowl, it wasn't me. You got to watch it.
Mila Kunis, Ashton Kutcher, a little bit of Shaggy.
Yeah,
fantastic.
It's one of the greatest commercials ever. But I think I don't even. I'm gonna say this and then reel us back in.
Yeah,
I think the absolute greatest commercial ever, though, was the bouncing QR code.
Oh yeah, marketing genius.
Right.
Yeah, it probably is super cheap too. It probably cost them nothing.
Had to be.
Yeah, there's almost zero production.
Yeah. So again, there's a lot of dumb things that we share. Yeah. And there's a lot of good things we could share.
Yeah. But think about the impact of just sharing a message, right?
Oh, yeah.
Think about how much content.
Sharing the gospel has never been easier, really.
And it's the kind of thing, we talked a little bit about it last week. Genesis. I can't read. I got the notes right in front of me and can't read it. Philippians 4:5. It's kind of the verse we hit on last week. I want to hit it again. But it says, "Let your gentleness be evident to all, for the Lord is near." And really what that's saying is, and here's how I take it, is you should be showing Jesus in your normal life. Like it doesn't have to be standing on a street corner preaching and screaming. Like just be a Jesus follower. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. I like the quote. You got to read the quote again, man.
Oh, which one?
St. Francis.
Oh, yeah. So St. Francis, I want to say David Platt says this too.
He does. He does.
But preach the gospel at all times, and if necessary, use words.
I love that. And that speaks so much power. And I say this when I teach Equip and teach evangelism and sharing your faith. It's not enough to not talk about it. All right, let me just preface that. But people should know you are a believer before you ever say a word.
Yeah,
they should see it in your actions, your everyday. Your kids and your family. They should see you reading the Bible. They should hear you praying. Yeah. And that's challenging to me as well. Like, when do I have time to do all that? And a lot of times I'm reading the Bible on my phone, and so I've been trying to challenge myself. Pull out your physical Bible so the kids see you doing it. But a lot of times now the kids still ask me, "Hey, are you reading the Bible? Or are you reading the book?" And most of the time now that I'm on my phone, I am reading the Bible or I am reading a Christian book. But again, people should know that you are a follower of Jesus. And even if they don't know that it's like the fact that you're a follower of Jesus, they know there is something different about you before you say a word. And that's where that quote from St. Francis, preach the gospel at all times, and if necessary, use words.
And just those actions, especially in your home. So, like, perfect example that came to me while you were talking about that. So, growing up, my dad, without fail, every single night, I watched him every night I noticed, but every night my dad would lock the deadbolt to the front door, right? Tiniest thing. Never once do I recall a conversation about, Dad, why do you do that? Right?
Yeah.
But every single night, without fail, my dad would lock that deadbolt. And I realized it. And it was something that as I got older, I started paying attention to that and noticing it. Never once did we have a conversation. Never once did he sit me down and say, now, son, when you have a family of your own, you got to make sure you lock the deadbolt and all those things. But what do I, as soon as I had a family of my own, a house of my own, what did I do? Right? That's my thing. And I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I can't remember, if I lock it, get out and go do it. And it's one of those simple things. Like, he never had to tell me that, right? His example showed me that. And the same works, just like you were talking about, reading scripture. Your kids will see that. Yeah. Right? Oh, yeah. And they're going to know, like, you don't have to have necessarily a conversation, right? Yeah. I'm sure you will. I'm sure you do. But that doesn't require a conversation of, like, oh, I should read the Bible. It's like, oh, my dad does that, right? Yeah. And just think about that. I mean, we were talking about your life, and your scripture says your gentleness, but your love for Christ should be evident, right?
Absolutely.
If it's important to you, right? Like, perfect example, Star Wars is my life. I love Star Wars, right? I was at a wedding on May the 4th, and it was amazing. I could talk to some buddies of mine about Star Wars whose opinions I trust and value, and we argued about some things, and it was awesome. So it's evident, right, in my life that I love Star Wars. Yeah. Right? People know that I love Star Wars. I was wearing a Star Wars tie last week, and it was great.
I haven't seen the picture yet.
I'll make sure you see it.
I told you I need picture proof.
It's pretty solid. We had lightsabers at the send-off and everything. It's great.
I like what you say there. It's evident. I just thought about a song by Elevation Worship. I think Brandon Lake recorded it, Talking to Jesus. I just want to read these lyrics because this is essentially what we're talking about. And bear with me because I might just read the whole song. Grandma used to pray out loud by our bed every night. To me, it sounded like mumbling, like she was out of her mind. She said, boy, this kind of praying is what saved my life. You ought to try it sometime. And now I know she was right. She was talking to Jesus for all of her life. And then Mama used to drag me to church Sunday mornings and Wednesday nights, khaki pants and a polo shirt. Boy, I put up a fight. She said, son, one day you'll thank me for having God in your life. And yeah, I know she was right. She was talking to Jesus. Yeah, Mama was right. What a friend we have in Jesus. And then I love this last part. I've got 3 of my own now, trying to raise them up right. My oldest is 15, and I remember what that was like. Trying to deal with the drama, trying to figure out the questions in life. And I've been looking for a way to show him how to make it right. Then he walked in my room while I was saying my prayers the other night. He said, I'll come back later. I can tell you got a lot on your mind. I said, it's not an interruption. You couldn't have picked a better time because I was just talking to Jesus. Come over and give it a try.
Yeah. That's good. That should be a song.
All right? I mean, it's a pretty good one. It's a pretty good one. So, man, you never know those moments, I don't know how true that is. I don't know if that was written based on experience, but could you imagine if your kids walked in and heard you talking to Jesus and they're like, I'll come back later. And you're like, no. That's a moment. Yeah. I'll never forget staying at my grandma's house, like holidays and all, and the room that we would stay in was, before she passed, was right beside hers. And I'd hear her all hours of the night just calling out names. And until the day that she took her last breath, while she might not would be verbal talking to people, you always understood her prayers. Yeah. And she would sit there and lay in that bed and pray and pray and pray and pray. Philip Furrow says, favorite song for sure. Absolutely. It's such a good one. Again, it's Talking to Jesus. Somebody put that in the chat. I might try to here in just a second. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I stole the show from you, Darren.
No, that's perfect. I was thinking as you were talking about you were talking about your grandma. I'm talking about my grandma. And,
we talk a lot about grandmas.
Well, look, everybody should have a good grandma. And if you don't have a good grandma, I'll let
John's
you borrow
got
mine.
one for you.
Right?
He already said it.
That's true. John Ward offered his
Yeah.
grandma. But I mean, what does it take for everybody's grandma to become that way? And I think my grandma's been that way as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
And she was 16 for a long time when I was growing up. At least that's what she told me. So I'm not proud of how long it took me to figure out that she was messing with me. I won't say she's lying to me, but
that's great.
grandma was messing with me. But, you know, it took time for our grandmas to become that way, right?
It wasn't overnight.
You think about people like Pastor John, right? You don't become that close to Jesus overnight, right? Now, some people I think do, right? But it takes time. And that's kind of what we hit on last week a little bit. We were talking about this number line and this idea that everybody at some point is on that number line.
Yeah.
And you notice the two arrows at the end of it, right?
Yeah.
Especially, we're going to focus on that one to the, at least my right. Which way is it? Am I pointing the right way? I'm going the wrong way. Ha, there we go. That way.
Yeah, that way.
There we go.
No, that.
Yeah, that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the right way.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm looking at the positive.
That way.
Yeah.
It's so
Anyways,
weird.
we're
Sorry.
backwards. Now we know what it's like being weathermen.
Right?
Right.
I don't know how they do it. I trip,
We won't be
fall.
doing that.
All right,
But
sorry.
but it's something Courtney pointed out to me last week. We were talking about this. Like, a number line is infinite, right? That arrow, for you math nerds, right? That means it's infinite.
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing is there was at some point where even my grandma, as close as she is to Jesus, like, I mean, she's pretty darn close.
Yeah.
Like, I always joke that grandma's got a direct line to Jesus, because if you need something prayed for, like, you call my grandma.
Oh,
and
no doubt. No
like
doubt.
it's like that bat phone that the commissioner has. He goes directly to Batman.
Yeah, and then you see the light up in the sky. Yeah.
Right, which is like really, really old Batman. That's not been a thing since like '66.
Shut up.
I mean, we're about the same age.
Yeah.
But it's taken time for her to become that way, right?
Yeah.
So all these folks that we look up to that are huge giants of the faith, they've become that way over years and years, right?
Yeah.
They're growing closer to Jesus,
Yeah.
and different moments of choosing to grow closer to Jesus. And what's cool about that is because as they've gotten closer to Jesus, right, they've been a part of other people's moments of impact.
Yeah.
Right.
A ton of moments.
And they've moved other people along that number line. And I was thinking about what it takes for them to do that. And it made me think of Acts 1:8. Now, this is Jesus speaking right before he ascends, right?
Yeah.
If you've been in church any length of time, you've probably heard this. But Jesus is speaking to his disciples right before he ascends into heaven. It says, "But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes on you. And you'll be my witnesses in Jerusalem and in all Judea and Samaria and to the ends of the earth." And when you do equip in your week, you've got a pretty powerful illustration about that. And I think it's accurate. What happens is all those places that he mentioned, that covers the whole world.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I think the hardest thing, and the thing maybe we don't realize our impact all the time, is the impact we have in Jerusalem, right? In our immediate circle, and the people around us.
Yeah.
And maybe it just takes us longer to recognize it and realize it.
Yeah.
But just, like we talked about in Philippians, letting your gentleness, letting your love for Christ just overflow out of you. Like, it doesn't doesn't always have to be an intentional thing. Right? So if people around you, this is just a quick thought for us, but if people around you aren't clear and aren't sure that you're a follower of Christ, like, why aren't they?
Yeah.
Right? That's a good question to ask yourself. Now, we kind of cheat. Like, we work for the church, so people assume that we're pretty close to
Nowadays,
Jesus, right?
you can't necessarily assume all that.
Right? Well, you know what happens when you assume. Sometimes you're wrong.
Let's just leave it there. Use your imagination. Don't put it in the chat. You'll be censored.
Yeah, when you assume, sometimes you're wrong. But
Yeah.
what were you thinking, Carly?
Nothing.
Does that mean something else?
No, man. You're wrong.
Yeah. Sometimes
you're
you're
not wrong, but sometimes. Carry on. We got 6 minutes left.
But let your gentleness be known, right?
Yeah.
Your love for Christ should be shown. Now, people may not always know what that is.
Right.
Right? But that love for Christ is what that overflow.
Yeah.
That's what impacts people, right? And they don't even always know what that is.
Yeah.
But that's the question I want to maybe leave us with today is if people around you aren't clear that something's different about you, right? If they're not sure, they may not know what it is. But that's a good moment to maybe stop and ask yourself why.
Yeah.
Like maybe I'm too secret with my faith.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe there's not enough overflow of Jesus working in my life that pours out.
Yeah.
You know, and not to be fake about it, but maybe you need to be more intentional.
Yeah.
Right? Like even just people you meet. Like coolest thing about living in the South is anybody will talk to you, anybody at any time, any moment about just about anything.
Yeah.
We were in Walmart the other day, right? And I worked at a cell phone company for 6 years, so I fixed a lot of problems like this. We were in Walmart the other day.
I love it.
And this lady stopped and talked to us and asked if we knew asked a question about Facebook. Like, and I had flashbacks to like all of my years of working, right, and fixing Facebook problems. And, you know, just that moment, like we were able to have a fun conversation. And at no point was I was like, you know what, you need to know Jesus and get off Facebook, right? We didn't go into that.
Yeah.
But we had this great connection, great moment, right? And got to talk about life for a few minutes.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't know that this is a moment of impact for her, but what if at some point, right? What if at some point she meets Jesus? Now she may be a follower. We didn't know. We didn't get into that. But what if at some point that little interaction, right?
You never
and just
know.
that conversation about something as stupid as Facebook, right?
You
what
never
if
know.
that's something that moves her along? And I could have been cold and just been like, I don't work on Facebook. I don't know anything, right?
Right.
Which is what I was doing inside for the but you know, we were able just to have that moment.
Yeah.
And that's what I want you to think about today is one, a couple things. Whose moment of impact can you be a part of?
Yeah.
Like who in your circle? We talked a little bit about that last week, but who in your circle are you going to be a part of their impact and moving them along that number line, right? Hopefully to the right. And then if there's nobody in your life that you feel like your life is impacting, right? You should ask yourself why.
Yeah.
And think about that.
Yep, absolutely. Hey, listen, speaking of moment of impact, you never know what an invite to meet on the mountain might be for someone that might be their moment of impact. Or you never know what, man, just getting your wife or your mom or significant other, you know, that special thing for Mother's Day. You never know. That could be that moment of impact. And, you know, that's why we give gifts on Mother's Day and Father's Day. That's why we try to make it special. You know, a couple of other things that were texted in. Michelle said spa day and nap uninterrupted. You never know what those moments might be.
Yeah.
So make sure that you are taking advantage of those opportunities to be a moment for somebody. Or to allow someone to speak into your life and you have a moment.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, that jumps back, you know, whose moment of impact can you be a part of? And the ones who's had those moments in your life, like I said earlier, man, let them know. You will never know how far that'll go.
Yeah. I mean, someday two guys in a wooden room could be talking about somebody's grandma. I mean, you could be somebody. Hopefully, you're going to be somebody's grandma one day.
Yeah.
Right. So why not start now, impacting people? But
Yeah.
man, good show, good talk.
Yeah.
And we didn't print new notes or anything.
Nah, we
That was
did.
fantastic.
We
And
didn't.
we spent plenty of time talking about meeting on the mountain. Make sure you show up. It's gonna be a good time. I'm bringing my dad. My dad's gonna come. It'll be a good time. Which, speaking of procrastination, I got to get my tickets.
Yeah.
I should probably do that and fill that out. But if you're interested, go to parkroanoke.com/meet on the mountain. We'd love to have you there, gentlemen. Don't forget Mother's Day. At minimum, you got to call your mom on Mother's Day, right? Call the special ladies in your life. You got to call them. Send a card. I will have cards on sale at Meet on the Mountain if you need some. So make sure you come see me there. I'll be the one in the trench coat and the hat, looking all sketchy with Mother's Day cards. Which I feel like I got to do now. But but thanks so much for joining us. If you're not a part of our group, make sure you go to text that number 540-900-3838. Text the word motivate, and that'll put you in our group. We'll get you a little motivation. Make sure you share this if you're not already subscribed. Subscribe on whatever platform you're watching us on. Share this with somebody that needs a little bit of encouragement. Hope you have a great week and stay motivated.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, when you're feeling down and motivated in the midweek, we got the guys here to make your life complete.